ReThink Impact, I want to get this right, is the largest US-based venture firm investing in female and non-binary leaders. Is that correct?
It's close. So ReThink Impact's an early stage venture fund. We are the largest in the country investing in female CEOs.
Well, that I misspoke there is an interesting distinction between you or among you and your peers in the industry. Can you talk about why you're looking at CEOs specifically and not leaders more broadly?
Absolutely. So we focus on female CEOs for a few reasons. Number one, that is the seat of power. And that is where the real capital gap in venture is. So I think it's 2% now, a number that hasn't changed in 20 years. That's going into female CEOs. And female CEOs have the largest ownership positions in their businesses. They are setting tone, setting culture, building teams. They have the board seats. So when you invest in a female CEO, you're solving capital gaps, but you're also addressing the ownership and the boardroom issues at the same time.
That's interesting. So a founding team comes to you and it's a male and female co-founder. So a more diverse founding team perhaps, but if the female or non-binary co-founder is not CEO, you will not invest.
We will pass them on to lots of friends and lots of funds that have that focus, yeah.
How often are you turning that down? Because I feel like in my role I see a lot of pitches where it's a diverse founding team, but the female partner is chief medical officer, chief technology officer, hugely important roles, but not CEO.
That's right. So that is not our focus. I think when we started out 6 years ago, we thought there was no diversity within the C-suites. That's what we were seeing in technology. And so we set out to focus on female in C-suite roles. And we saw thousands of deals every year that fit that criteria. What we realized and what we started with our second fund was that we could actually focus purely on female CEOs as the lever point for impact and power, and we're still seeing 600, 700, 800 companies a year coming in through the door.
Well, that's good news.
Yeah.
How are you feeling? I mean, 6 years, you have a nice data set there.
Me too.
How would you characterize the pace of change or the rate of change between when you started and where we are right now?
It's been extraordinary. And particularly because we invest not just with a gender lens, but with an impact lens. So we are looking for women building B2B software businesses to tackle global challenges. And so what we're seeing is businesses like that are attracting the best business talent, the best engineering, the best science talent, because they know they can build multi-billion-dollar businesses by tackling these huge global problems, whether it's in healthcare, education, climate tech, or financial inclusion.
You have a focus on impact, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs want to make an impact, and especially at this very particular moment, there are a lot of huge problems to solve in society, business, culture. It can be easy to get distracted or paralyzed or what have you. What's your advice to someone who has an impact lens and wants to grow their company?
Yeah, so what I would say is lean into your passion, because that's what really drives the resilience that allows you to build a company and do what it takes day after day. Also, by building a company with purpose, you will have an edge when it comes to the talent war. More and more we are seeing, whether it's engineers or commercial folks, they want to go work at companies that have a purpose and a mission that's aligned with them. You know, certainly at Spring Health, we saw that people who were so deeply passionate or had a lived experience with a mental health crisis wanted to go work at Spring Health. A lot of other companies that we work on have that same type of edge when it comes to talent.
One of the big issues right now is the market. I think stocks are red most days that you look at the market. And I've heard some concerns about a pullback in diversity commitments and investment in women. Do you share that fear?
I do and I don't. I think what I'm seeing in the market is that there is unfortunately, a very rational pulling back and closing ranks that we're seeing within the venture capital community. How I see that showing up is that firms are relying upon repeat, proven founders who have done this before, and they're relying on established old networks and connections. So what that means is that women are getting more and more shut out because they're relying on these past successes and past relationships. What's ironic about that is that women are actually uniquely suited just for moments like this. So that's what we're leaning in.
Why?
I think that the data shows, whether it's from BCG or the Peterson Institute or McKinsey, is that women are doing more with less. If you look at the data, women are raising less money but generating more revenue, higher profit margins with more diverse teams, and they're exiting on average about a year earlier.
Those sound like very good businesses.
They're good ones to lean into.
And that's exactly the space you're playing in. So how do you feel, it's a big question, but how do you feel about the state of funding for female and non-binary founders at this moment in time?
I mean, it's a tough moment for any founder, but I do think what's encouraging is that there are more and more funds like ours that are stepping up with a gender lens, with an impact lens, and they're new. They're not trying to take care of 6, 7, 8 different sets of portfolio companies. They have fresh powder, dry powder. They're focused on change. They know that these problems that they're trying to solve are countercyclical. They are growing. They are here whether we like it or not. And there's incredible opportunity to lean into businesses like that.
What opportunities are you most excited about, or what business developments are you touting at this conference right now?
Yeah, so one of the things that I'm seeing, which is really, really exciting, is that we're seeing some of the world's biggest companies actually starting to take real steps towards their net zero commitments. We're seeing it show up in the fashion industry. We're seeing it show up in the food industry. So one example is a deal that we recently closed in partnership with the Galvanize Fund and a company called Regrow, which is led by CEO Anastasia Volkova. And so this is an incredible company, Regrow, which is helping really big food companies make good on their net zero commitments and to really make their food supply chains, the farming and ag industry, more sustainable.
How did you get to this seat? Was there a turning point in your career? What got you here?
There was absolutely a turning point in my career. I had started out from college on Wall Street, and I loved working on deals. I loved working on emerging technology companies. I didn't have a lot of role models around me, female or male. I had a chance to move over and start a brand new corporate venture capital group from scratch. And it was the first time that I had an incredibly powerful and young female boss as my mentor. And so that to me was this entirely new way of thinking about what can an investor look like, and she embodied that. So the leap was going from investment banker into venture capitalist at an emerging firm and really building a venture capital firm with these different types of lenses from a blank sheet of paper. This role model of mine came with spirituality, she came with positivity, she came with athleticism, and she came with youth. I thought, this is a role model, this is what I want to be like. And she also had a passion for social change, and I realized that was the career path I wanted to follow. How do I use my training as an investor and use those tools to affect positive social change?
Social change through investing, but you also co-created a class at Stanford on impact.
I did.
Can you tell me a little about that? I love the idea that you're doing it as an investor, but you're also seeding the next generation of students.
Yes, absolutely. And so the class is called Investing for Good. I've been teaching it at the business school at Stanford for about 7 years. And what we do is teach students to think about what are their passions, what does that mean in terms of the impact they want to have in the world, and how do you create a strategy from scratch to put dollars to work in the market with those issues and those motivations in mind. And what's fantastic is that 7 of my former students are actually here with us at the All Race Summit.
As founders or investors?
As investors, and I actually closed a deal with them, one of them last week.
Fast forward 12 months, we're at the All Race conference again, and I ask you something you've accomplished, either you personally or ReThink Impact. What do you hope to be able to tell me?
Yeah, a year from now, I think I want my theme to be bigger, better, and more. So more companies growing bigger, doing better work, providing better jobs within our industry. I think a lot of the companies that we have invested in, whether it's tackling issues within healthcare, issues within economic empowerment, helping families get great jobs through continuing education or entrepreneurship to move up the economic ladder, that we've helped more of them, that they've used this time to grow bigger and grow better, and that affecting real change at scale.
What ideas, either within your portfolio or here in the ether, excite you the most right now?
I am really excited about training our nation's frontline workers to take on more and better jobs. There are so many labor shortages in our market, which is crazy because in other areas there are talent wars. Mm-hmm. How do we bridge that gap? And so those are some of the things that we're starting to look at, these labor marketplaces in sectors, particularly healthcare, that need them most. I mean, I think people do ask a lot about why female CEOs, and I think the perfect quote comes from our portfolio, one of our long-standing CEOs, Sally Krawcheck from Ellevest, who's trying to close the capital gap for women and the investing gap for women, and she often says, nothing bad happens when women have more money, and that's what we're all about at ReThink Impact.